Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to brand new video. Arsenal take on Tottenham Hotspur this weekend in the real title decider. If Arsenal can beat Tottenham, in my opinion, they will go on to beat Bournemouth. They'll go on to beat Man United and Everton, and they will wait for Manchester City to drop some points. For Tottenham, it's going to be a huge game, a massive game for them. They've got to stop this Arsenal side. They are really London rivals, so you don't expect them to sit down and let Arsenal win it as they watch, like Chelsea did. So I think the first mission for Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham is going to be stopping Arsenal, but also ahead of that, Spurs have a very busy week that is actually going to drain them. After Arsenal, they'll take on Chelsea, then they will take on Liverpool, and then after that, they have that Manchester City game coming up. And that is not actually a very good fixture list in terms of their pursuit for the top four. They're trying to chase down Aston Villa, who have actually been really good, really in good form. They've beaten Arsenal. They have taken points of Manchester City as well. So Spurs have got to do their own job if they're going to get to the top four. So it's a very important game for both sides, and in this video I want us to dive into where both managers could actually capitalize on each other, where Tottenham Hotspur will fall short and where Tottenham Hotspur have been actually weak this campaign, but also where this Arsenal team has been weak and where you could actually hurt them, because I don't think Arsenal have been a flawless machine. We have been a little bit well-oiled. That is absolutely very true. There's so many teams that we have easily crushed out of a way. Chelsea, Crystal Palace, West Ham. But also we have had some, little bumps along the way, along the road. You look at that Bayern Munich performances, home and away. You look at Aston Villa at the Emirates Stadium, West Ham at the Emirates Stadium, and Fulham home and away. Those are performances that any team that wants to beat Arsenal or even take points off Arsenal is going to capitalize on. Now, Ange Postecoglou, first and foremost, he has done very well in terms of putting this Tottenham Hotspur side together, and they've already taken a point against Arsenal in a game where they didn't deserve. They came to the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal really played very well, but because of two simple mistakes, Arsenal conceded 2 goals and the game ended 2-2. That is going to be a big point for Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham. They will believe that because they came to the Emirates Stadium and did it, they can actually, be at home at the White Hart Lane, a ground where Arsenal don't get a lot of joy, and actually cause an upset. And it has happened before, and this is a fixture where Arsenal and Tottenham share draws more than any other fixture in the Premier League history. So this is a game that is going to be an absolute entertainer. It's going to be nervy. It's going to have a lot of emotion. Spurs trying to close down Aston Villa with that 6-point difference. Although Villa have 2 games in, Spurs have 2 games in hand. And of course, Arsenal trying to still run away from Man City. They want to make it around 7 points before Man City actually play, again on Sunday as they take on Nottingham Forest. So it's about winning your games. It's about doing what you're supposed to do. Let's start off with Spurs. Spurs lost 4-0 to Newcastle, and that is the game that I have analyzed as I was preparing for this video. And I think with Spurs, they've got one problem. They have a manager that is very aggressive. They have a manager that is very attack-minded, but they don't have the resources they need to execute and implement an effective Ange Postecoglou ball. And that is something that has actually hurt them time in, time out. When they get you on your bad day, they will absolutely decimate you. They will bury you. But when you get Spurs on their bad day, when you get them on a day where they are not actually showing up, you will decimate them, you will discombobulate them. And that's what happened in that 4-0 loss to Newcastle, because Newcastle have got players like Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak, runners willing take a zone on the ball. They struggled and they were discombobulated in that game. So the first thing I picked up there is the high line, and I think this is something that we've seen with Tottenham Hotspur a lot of the time this campaign. They play really high line, and I think I've not seen another team apart from Arsenal and Man City. I've not seen another team that play a high line as Tottenham Hotspur. They are really brave, and that comes from how Ange Postecoglou wants to play and how he actually wants his teams to set up. He doesn't really believe in sitting into a low block and waiting to pounce on mistakes of the opponent. He wants to create situations himself as a manager. He wants the team to create chances rather than waiting for the opponent to create mistakes and then you pounce on them. So the high line is something that is good for Tottenham and also something that is actually very, very bad for them as well. So what we saw in the Newcastle game, when they were being beaten 4-0, the high line was exploited. So you look at the first goal in that game, the ball is played over the top, over the midfield into that back line, behind the back line to Anthony Gordon, who actually beats Udogie, and then he plays the ball into Alexander Isak. Boom, that's goal number 1. Then the goal number 3, I think, against Alexander Isak's second goal in that game, the ball is played beyond the midfield, beyond the back line, who are very high. They're as high as the center line. Actually, the last defender, who is Van der Ven, is on the center line. And he doesn't have the pace to deal with Alexander Isak, who is already on his way and is already running. So that's one problem, and that is one opportunity for Arsenal to exploit in this game. If you can get runners in behind that Tottenham Hotspur defense, we're talking Martinelli, we're talking Saka, we're talking maybe Gabriel Jesus could come in this game. The problem with Gabriel Jesus is he's not an Alexander Isak. He's not as clinical as players like Isak, because in that game, I think Alexander Isak gets 3 good chances and he buries 2 of them. That is the quality that beats teams at the top level. You don't get many chances. You don't need many chances. He gets 3, he buries 2, and it's game over. So for me, I think Mikel Arteta as manager, he knows this, and he has seen how Ange Postecoglou sets up as a manager. He's going to try, and he should try to exploit that, high line. At least have runners in behind. You've got to have Martinelli. He's going to be a key player for me in this game, as well as Saka. Use your pace, use your speed to sprint in behind, because you've got players that have the ability to find you. Kai Havertz has got the ability to play that ball over the top. Thomas Partey is going to be a key player for Arsenal in this game, as well as Martin Odegaard. So that is the first thing that Spurs have to fix in this game, and that's the first point that Mikel Arteta and Arsenal have got to take care of if they want to beat Spurs in that game. Secondly, I think it's about set pieces. Arsenal have scored more set piece goals than any other team in the Premier League this season, I think, apart from Everton, who scored another goal from set pieces yesterday as well. So when you think about Arsenal and set pieces and how good Arsenal are at set pieces, it's the opposite when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur. Again, in that game against Newcastle, every set piece that was flown into the penalty area, a Newcastle player had the first touch. And that shows you that Spurs are really, really, really very lucky to have conceded just 4 goals. Imagine 6 corners, and every single time a Newcastle player gets the first touch in the opposition penalty area on a corner or on a set piece that has been driven directly into the penalty area. Of course, they scored through a corner. I think it was Fabian Schär. The 4th goal, he gets up in the air, no one is marking him, free header, and he puts it into the back of the net. That is going to be key for Mikel Arteta. Music to to the ears of Arsenal, and music to the ears of this Arsenal team that actually has scored as many as 13 goals from dead ball situations. Look, you have got the likes of Saliba, you've got the likes of Gabriel, you've got the likes of Declan Rice. All those are tall players. All those are players that are willing to, jump up in the air, and they will try to get a header on the ball. If you cannot clear it, as well as as well as clearing it completely, this Arsenal team is actually going to hurt you. So Ange Postecoglou has got to mind about that set piece problem. They've really got to they've really got to find a solution to that. Otherwise, that is one way Arsenal should be looking to looking to hurt them. Now they struggle with long balls. We've talked about that, balls over the top. But then the other thing that Spurs really have to work on is 1v1 situations. And this Arsenal team is a team that will isolate your players. It's a team that will isolate your defenders, because they've got players that have got the quality and they believe they can take on players 1v1. So Martinelli, Trossard, Saka, and even occasionally a Martin Odegaard. And one thing again we've seen with the Spurs side and their players, they struggle. They really struggle to beat players or win 1v1 situations, win 1v1 take-ons. Is something they really struggle with. And I think for me, the whole idea of managers like Ange Postecoglou, the whole idea of managers like of the new managers and their styles is the best way of defending is having the ball. But there are times where you're going to play a more quality side, a team that is much better than you, and I think Arsenal are much better than Tottenham. And these 1v1 uncomfortable situations of players like Romero, players like Udogie, this is going to be very, very, very important and very key. I looked at it and I'm like, if Newcastle with Isak, Gordon, and Barnes caused you a lot of problems in that game, what about this Arsenal side that is really full of confidence, beaming of confidence, and they have players that really believe in themselves? It's going to be much worse than that. So I think that is another thing that Mikel has got to work on and factor into this game. Can you get these players in 1v1 situations a lot of the time? And then lastly, Spurs struggling with pace in behind. And that is something that, listen, I've talked about it. Isak, Gordon, and Barnes running in behind. You cannot play a slow game against Spurs. That is playing into their hands. So if you want to beat them, and if Mikel is serious about winning this game, he's got to play more of the quicker game, right? He's got to play the quicker game. He's going to play the game that is pacey. And at times, that actually exposes this Arsenal side. We're going to talk about the weaknesses that Spurs could galvanize on and thrive on in this game. But if Arsenal could use the pace, runners in behind, and those long balls, that is something that's going to really hurt Spurs, right? You will have to commit numbers. Obviously, you will have to, be very, very much attack-minded, and that will be, that will swing the pendulum on the other side in the favor of Tottenham Hotspur. But for me, Arsenal have got to go brave. Arsenal have got to be serious if they want to win this game. Now, with Tottenham Hotspur, we know what they do. They commit numbers and they commit bodies forward. And Ange Postecoglou, that is one of the things that we love about him as football fans. He doesn't play a boring game. He's taken games to Man City, he's taken games to Chelsea, he's taken games to Liverpool, and he's taken games to Arsenal. And in all those situations, he has been beaten and he has, thrived as well. So it's a win-win for him. And the first thing that I think he's going to look at with this Arsenal team is struggling to break down a defensive unit. And we have struggled to take down defensive units as a team. I think the last time I remember Arsenal breaking through a team very well that was really organized was when we played Crystal Palace and we beat them 5-0 away from home. That is the last time I remember a team coming with a sole plan of defending until the 90 minutes and Arsenal cut through them like a hot knife through butter. Apart from that, Bayern, they came with the same game plan. Sit back, don't allow Arsenal to have spaces. We lost both. We lost the quarterfinals. You think about this Aston Villa side and how compact they were and how they never allowed anything for us in the second half, and we lost that game. So I think it's something Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham will have to look into. Maybe you've got to be defensively defensively collective in order for you to beat this Arsenal side. And then you've got that vulnerable, counter-attack situation that Arsenal always find themselves in. So basically, against Aston Villa, the second goal, Oli Watkins single-handedly leads a counter-attack that, Arsenal concede through. Arsenal concede 2 counter-attack goals against Bayern at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal are vulnerable on the counter-attack. And I don't care how good the defense is, if you're vulnerable on the counter-attack, teams are always going to expose you because that is the easy way to beat a team like Arsenal. Sit in your shape, sit in your defense, and wait to catch them on the break. And we know that Tottenham Hotspur have runners. You have the likes of Heung-min Son, you have the likes of Timo Werner, who are very, very pacey, and the likes of Brennan Johnson and Jan Kulusevski. They have the pace and they've got the runners. What you cannot allow, if you're Arsenal, is you can't allow them spaces to run into, especially catching you on the break. In the end, I think this is a game that Arsenal will win. I think Arsenal have stronger points to exploit against Spurs. And for me, however much Spurs want to come and, put up a fight, I think this game might be a little bit heavier for them.